All right, armored people. Hello, it's nice to see you again after what was it, 2-3 weeks that I was temporarily MIA? Well, today we're back and we are doing the Great Helm, the Crusader helm, the one from the Bread Boys channel. You know it, you love it, we all do. It's a very classic, kind of essential helm. In fact, it's probably what you think of when you are asked to imagine a medieval helmet. And I like it fine. I think it's interesting. It's definitely historical on my screen. If it has not already gone dark, it's a historical example. I don't know if you can see it with the light. Maybe that's a bit better. But it's typically used around the Crusades. So the 12th, 13th, all the way into the 14th centuries is when it's most popular. But this specific design, it did not always look like. This is a later design, although it did, the latest design of this kind of variation of helmet ended with a more pointed top to deflect blows off the side. So this is kind of like a mid-late kind of design. Think more like 13th century, maybe part of the 12th, and into the 14th, but there was a better version. But it was not the original one, and I think it's a fine representation of what you think a Crusader helmet to be. I don't know if it was necessarily the most common one. I think perhaps some of the earlier iterations were a lot more common because the earlier Crusader era is probably the majority of the time that Christian Crusaders were in the Holy Land because they owned Jerusalem for about a century at the beginning of, I believe, around the 11th century. That kind of design was a lot more like a kind of rounded pot helm with a mask going down. And the mask would cover the sides of your face, but it wouldn't fully enclose. It would not really cover the back. You could probably Google it to get a better photo than I have, but I don't have one up here and my editor's not here, so I can't have him get something else up. But it goes to say that it evolved into this kind of design that has protected back, that's fully enclosed. But this kind of design with the limited eye slits, the breathing holes, that all existed around the early Crusades with the whole mask idea. And this kind of, the cross part, I believe there's evidence of that always existing. I don't think that's necessarily a modern thing. I don't think it's necessarily attributable to any specific time period in the Crusades. I think those guys just liked crosses and thus put crosses on stuff. It's definitely present on tabards, which are the cloth covering for mail. It's definitely present on those throughout the entire period. So I have to assume it would be likewise present on the helmets, but I can't think of any particular examples other than the one I have here. But it is interesting. I do want to do a full kind of look at Crusader designs, the Crusader mail and Crusader tabards, as I just mentioned. The chouses I'm trying to make, that I have made a short about, are very much that kind of Crusader era. It's a little bit earlier because they're half chouses, but maybe eventually I intend to develop them into full chouses. But talking a bit about the helmet itself, this is provided to me by another good friend on RPG Club. I don't know if he specifically wants me to mention him, so if he does, I'll put it in the description of this video, and I'm not going to mention him right now. But it's definitely heavy. It's the heaviest helmet I've held in my hands. I think it is a bit heavier than Elise's, the salad that I did a previous video on. I definitely think it's one of the most vision limiting. In fact, it's also very voice limiting. I don't know if you can even hear me talking right now, which is why I'm trying to speak louder. And I certainly hear myself muffled as well. But it's definitely effective. Like I said, I don't have a whole lot of specs on this helmet. I believe it's around 16 gauge steel. It definitely feels on the thicker end, maybe 18. But other than that, I think it's a pretty decent replication. It's pretty clearly inspired from where we see this helmet more often, the Bread Boys YouTube channel, and inspired by popular media like Crusader and etc, etc, etc. Just saying, it is very much the popular imagination of a Crusader helm. And that's not a bad thing, because the popular imagination of crusader helm is, believe it or not that far off of what actually existed. In fact, this could have existed. It very much probably did somewhere. Is it like the perfect poster child? Maybe not, but it's good enough, and I feel like we should appreciate pop culture for at least getting something decently historically accurate for once, and I certainly appreciate them for that. But other than that, absolutely beautiful helmet. Thank you very much, my friend, unmentioned at the moment, for providing this to me, for me to do a video on it. And he's not just getting nothing, I am helping with the maintenance of this room. But yes, it was wonderful talking about this to you guys, and I hope to see you again.